Hi, Anna at the Sewing Studio here, and in this video I am introducing to you the Brother Inventio NV1350 sewing machine. I'm going to talk you through all its features, I'll show you everything that comes in the box, I'll do some sewing, show you its capabilities, and then talk a bit about warranty and support. Now the rest of this video actually features the Brother Inventio NV1300, and that's because this model is an update of that one. Internally, everything is exactly the same, but it's got its brand new name of Inventio NV1350, a fresh new look, but also slimmed down on this area here so that we've got more viewing of the needle when we're sewing. But rest assured, everything that you're about to see is exactly the same for this model. Now the Inventio NV1300 is classed as a longer arm machine, and that's because it's got 8 inches of space to the right of the needle. It's got 183 different stitch options, and they're all within this easy to use touchpad. There's 10 different styles of one-step buttonhole, so you can get the right one for the type of fabric you're using. Different utility stitches, decorative stitches, satin stitches. There's also fonts on this machine. There's 5 different ones, and they're both uppercase and lowercase. It also has the ability to sew in multi-directions, which is great for things like sewing on patches, reinforcing bag handles and things like that. You can change the width and the length of the stitch, and the maximum stitch width is 7mm and the maximum length is 5mm. It has a mirror functionality, so you can change the orientation of the stitch, and it has a memory as well. And if all that wasn't enough, it comes with a My Custom Stitch feature so that you can create your own. It's computerized, so it comes with a foot pedal, but you don't have to use the foot pedal to operate it because it has a start-stop button down here somewhere, just there. It also has a speed control slider, so you can control your speed when you're sewing to get really nice results. And the maximum stitch speed is 850 stitches per minute. You've got your reversing button, a locking stitch button that's got 2 different functions, and I'll show you that when we get to the sewing section. Your needle up, needle down, which you can program for when you finish sewing whether you want the needle to stay in the work or come up out of the work, your choice. And your automatic thread cutter. It's also got a manual cutter on the side there. The presser foot has an extra lift, so you can get any bulky items in underneath there. You can also adjust the pressure that's applied on the presser foot, which is really useful when you're sewing finer fabrics and delicate fabrics. There's 7 pieces to the feed dogs. That means that your fabric is fully under control when it's under the needle, again, to give really nice results. And those feed dogs can be dropped if you want to do any kind of free motion work. Still on the presser foot, it comes with a knee lift as well, which plugs in the front there. So you can raise and lower the presser foot with your knee. The bobbin drops in the top. It's nice and easy to load, and it has the quick set, so you can just lay your thread in, no need to draw up the bobbin thread. And it's got a built-in needle threader, really easy to use, and again I'll show that when we come to thread the machine. If I take this off, you then have your free arm to sew any hems or cuffs, and then in the tray you've got storage in the back as well as in the front for all the presser feet and accessories that come with it. And there's this really handy tray that stores some of the feet. So what feet does it come with? So first off, you've got your standard zigzag foot. That'll already be on the machine when it arrives. A zipper foot, overcasting foot, one for blind hems, a monogramming foot, one for sewing on buttons, and the one-step buttonhole foot. There's also a range of accessories and also an operation manual, your power lead, foot control, and the knee lift. Lastly, it also has a hard cover. Now this machine weighs around 11 kilos, so it's not the most transportable, but certainly doable. And this helps to keep the dust off, but also keep it protected if you do take it out and about. There's also a nice pocket in there to keep the foot control and everything all in one place. So next, I'm going to show you how to thread the machine, and we'll do some sewing, and I'll show you its capabilities. So to thread the machine, everything is numbered for you, and then you've got a dotted line is everything for your bobbin, and your solid line is everything for the needle. So you just want to pop off the spool cap, pop the reeler thread on, and then put your cap back on. And there's different sizes of those caps depending on the size reel that you're using. So I'm just going to follow all the numbers. So number 1, in and around. Number 2, up and around. Number 3, down and around. Number 4, you go back and forth, and then that pops into the take-up lever that's inside there. Down number 5, which it says there, and then number 6 is the last guide at the top of the needle there. Number 7 is the very last one for the needle threader. So you just want to lay the thread in between there and up over the number 7, and you get a little click, which you might not have heard, but there's a tiny little click when the thread is in where it needs to be. You just want to drop the presser foot to give it a bit of room, and then send this lever down and up. Just like that. And the needle's threaded. Pop that under the foot. And then for the bobbin, you just want to slide that to the right and the cover pops up. The tail of the thread needs to be to the left. That's very important. If you do it the other way around, it won't like it very much. Your stitches won't look great and you might get a jam up. Again, there's arrows and diagrams here to show you which way to go. So you just drop that in. It's a good idea to pop your finger on it to give it a bit of tension. And then you go under this metal piece here, in and around. And then there's a little cutter that you can cut the last piece off. Pop the cover back on, and that's it threaded. You don't have to draw up the bobbin thread. It will pick it up when we start sewing, but you can if you want to. Just going to pull that thread out a bit. So, when you first switch the machine on, it'll always default to standard straight stitch number 1. Now, all the stitches are separated out into folders, as I call them. So, on the stitch chart under the lid here, you've got your sort of utility stitches. Decorative stitches split into 3 folders, and then your alphabets at the end there. You've also got a direct press of the most commonly used stitches here. So number 1, for instance, is a straight stitch in the left position, number 3 in the centre, your zigzag, blind hem, all the ones that we use more often, and they are in the direct dial pattern stitch there. So if you want to access these ones up here, you just change the folder. So that symbol, you might not quite be able to see it on camera, but that symbol there is the same symbol as that. So you just choose that, and then each stitch has a number. So then you just choose the stitch number to select that. But we're going to go through some of them, so I'll show you that in more detail in a minute. So let's just have a look at the standard straight stitch, and I'll show you the different speeds. So I'm not going to use the foot pedal, I'm just using the start-stop button, so I can show you how that works. So I'm just going to drop my presser foot down, drop the needle in, and at the moment I'm on the slow speed. So I'll make a start. To reverse, just keep your finger on the button for as far back as you want to go. It will stop, and you can come forward again. So slow is quite manageable. Up to midway, and up to top speed. Secure them, pop that up, lift your presser foot, chop the threads off, and that's your nice neat straight stitch. And underneath. Now there is another way to secure the ends of your stitching rather than doing a reverse, and that's this locking stitch. So what that does is, for as long as you keep your finger on it, it will just keep sewing on the spot. So you just want to do 2 or 3 stitches to secure it. 3, and then you would carry on. You can stop and then do your lock-in stitches if you want, or just press that one to stop it and keep your finger on it to do as many as you want. Use the scissor cut to cut your threads, up to you. And then you can see it's much neater either end, but they are secure. And it just doesn't give you the bulk of reversing like you've got here. And that's really good when you're doing something decorative or edge stitching, something like that. But they're still really secure. They're not going to pop out anywhere. Now this button also has a second function, and that's a pattern end. So if, for instance, we were going to sew out one of the decorative stitches, so let's have a look at, I don't know, let's go for this leafy one here, number 7. So it's in decorative stitch folder number 1. So it's this symbol here is the same symbol as that, but it's also the same symbol for these two. But you'll see when we press it, you get number 1. You would then get number 2 and number 3 to be in the different folders. So I'm going to go back to number 1 and I want stitch number 7. Here you go. So if I start sewing this one, I'll just slow it down a bit. And you can see that time when I pressed that button, it didn't stop sewing instantly. And that's because it was finishing the complete pattern before it stopped. So what that does is when you're nearing the end of your seam, it stops you kind of guessing and having half of a pattern there. It's kind of more relevant when you get to like stars and hearts and things like that. Now I don't know if you noticed on camera there, but that stitch is wider than the 7mm that's on here. And that's because the machine can stitch in multiple directions. So you're able to get wider decorative stitches. They're built in as a program to the machine, and they're these ones here. So let's have a look. Let's choose one to show you. Actually, let me show you the multi-direction first. So these are back in the utility stitches and they're here. So obviously you can sew forwards, obviously you can sew backwards, but you can also sew to the left and you can also sew to the right. So I'm going to go back to this folder. OK to cancel, yes. Now this is really good. Say if you were sewing on a patch, if you like, on a sleeve, and you had your sleeve around your free arm there. You've got your patch laid on the top, and it's quite hard when doing that to obviously turn it around to come down the other side. So I'm going to choose these stitches here. So 92. No, I'm going to go 95 first, and that'll bring me down this way. And then I want to go to the left, which is 93. That feels weird, doesn't it? So I'll stop that. I then want to go back up, which is number 92. Now the trick here, which I haven't done, because I was going too fast, is stopping where you started. So let's go for there. So then I want to come back across along the top. So that's number 94, so back to the right. I just secure that in place. And then you've got your square, so you have to envisage that that would be your patch. And it's also really useful to do like reinforcing squares on bag handles and things like that. To avoid this, it's a good idea just to draw a line like along the top of where you want it to start, and then when you come back around, you don't miss where you were before. Okay, so back to the larger decorative stitches that I was talking about, of which that is one, but it's just fun to sew them out. So let's choose another one. Let's go for number 18. So we're back in the decorative stitch folder here, and number 18. You can see it's scrolls. Let's have a look. And you just want to be keeping your fabric kind of straight and just let it do its thing. So again, I pressed that one so that it finished the complete pattern before it stopped sewing. I've actually only done one, I meant to do a couple, but they would just be repeated all the way along. But you can see how you can get nice wide decorative stitches there. So for your fonts, it's just like choosing your stitches. Each letter is a stitch and each letter has a number. They're just in the fonts folders, which is an A there. Now there are different types of fonts, which isn't necessarily very obvious up here, but it does tell you that in the manual. So if we press A once, that flashed up then, that's your kind of standard block. If you press it again, you've got italic, an outline, and then foreign characters. Japanese, and that's back to our block, which I'm going to use now. So I'm just going to write the word brother. So capital B is number 2. So I'm just going to go number 2 and OK. Now you can see, I've done this on purpose so you can see, we're now in a state of programming a sequence of stitches. So because I didn't cancel out the stitch before, it's put that in the beginning. But you can do that. So if you were writing a name or something, you know, you could put a heart one side or a flower one side or a heart the other side, obviously with whatever is on the machine, or you can create your own, up to you, and do a nice little sequence of stitches. But for now, I'm just going to write the word brother. So let's do that again. So O2 and then OK to store that. Lowercase r is 44. Whoops. How do you spell brother? B-R-O. I'm really joking. So 41, if you put all 3 in, it'll automatically set it. Put the 0 beforehand. T is 46. H is 34. E is 31. Whoops. And R is 44 again. So there's the word brother. You can just about see the B at the end there. So we'll stitch that out. Oh, put my thread underneath. Let's go down here. Cut the threads, and there's the word brother. Now each stitch individually is secured, so if you wanted to just snip off or, you know, pick off with your seam ripper these join-in stitches, you can, and nothing is going to unravel. Just be careful when you do it. So let's take a look at the buttonhole. That's the last that we'll do on the cotton, and then we'll move on to a couple of different types of fabric. So you want your buttonhole foot, pull that out at the back, and pop your button in, and these feet just snap on and off, so you just push the lever there and that drops off, and then you're lining this bar up with the bottom of the foot, so you just want to use the extra lift to get this one in underneath, line it up and pop it on. I like to get this thread in underneath the foot before I do a buttonhole because it saves it getting caught up. The easiest way to do that is to just drop your needle in, bring it out again, and then gently pull your fabric, and that will take it out for you. Keep them to the side. So to choose the buttonhole, I'm going to go back to the utility stitch folder, which is that one there. Yes, okay to cancel that, thank you. And then I'm using cotton, so the standard buttonhole is stitch number 80. So I put in 80, and there's the buttonhole. And it's telling me here to use foot A, which is the buttonhole foot. And I need to bring down the buttonhole sensor, which is just behind the needle threader. And it sits behind this plastic piece, and then that's what determines the size of the buttonhole. That will make sense in a minute. So use the extra lift to get that up. drop it down, and away you go. And there's your nice neat buttonhole on the top and the bottom. And all you'd need to do is just cut the fabric in between, you know, with a seam ripper, small scissors, chisel, whichever you prefer to do. And you've got your buttonhole. And it'll always, with this foot, make the hole a couple of millimeters bigger than your button, just so that it goes through with ease. So I'm just going to pop that off again. And as promised, let's take a look at a different type of fabric. So let's go jersey first. So I've got a jersey needle, just going to pop that in. These are always a little bit tight when they're first from the factory, but nothing that a little turn of a screwdriver won't fix. Pull that out. And then these are standard needles with the flat piece, and just make sure that goes to the back. Pop it in as far as it'll go, else you'll have trouble with the needle threader. And stitches, actually. And then there's your needle threaded. Let's pop the standard foot back on, like so. Right, so I've got some jersey material here, some t-shirt jersey material that's very curly, very slippy, and actually quite ribbed as well. So having sewn with it before, I know the best stretch stitch to use is the lightning stitch. And again, it's more of a utility stitch, so it's in the utility stitch folder, which we're already in. The light tells you where you are. I didn't need to press it then, I just did accidentally. And I can see it's stitch number 6, so 0, 6, and then there's the lightning stitch. So I'm going to pop that in, just do a couple of reinforcing stitches. And then again, reinforce them at the end. And that looks lovely. It's sitting nice and flat, there's no waviness. It's still stretchy with the stitch. And if I can get it open, the seam is really stretchy and it's nice and secure. So in terms of thicker fabric, I've got some denim here. Let's pop a jeans needle in. And it might seem faffy changing the needles and all, but don't underestimate how much of a difference it can make to the end result on your fabric. You know, a lot of the frustrations that we have can sometimes simply be resolved by using the right needle. And also changing the stitch length, which you'll see in a minute. You know, a lot of people think that there's tension issues where there isn't. Start playing with the tension and getting frustrated, but actually all you need to do is change your stitch length. So I've got some denim here that we sell in the shop. And because it's thicker than the cotton and the jersey that we've been using, I'm going to increase the stitch length. So let's go back to the standard straight stitch. So I can very simply choose the direct dial and then press number 1, and that's my standard straight stitch. So at the moment it's on a stitch length of 2.5 millimeters. I'm just going to take it up by 1, 3 millimeters. And like I say, because it's thicker, if you have it too small, you start to see, and if you've been sewing for a while, I'm sure you already know this or you've seen it, but you start to see the fabric almost kind of fold in the middle there. And that can usually be resolved by just extending the stitch length so that the stitch sits on the top rather than pulling it down in. That's done a really nice job. It's nice and neat, nothing is skipped underneath as well, and it's nice and secure. So let's double that over and go through 4 layers. I'll just get my thread under the foot again. Not going to change anything else on the machine at this stage because that should be all fine. Go back. Now you can hear that's working slightly harder, and that's because of the layers that's in there, but that's perfectly normal. That's what it's supposed to do. Again, nice and neat, nothing skipped, and it's still secure. So let's go once more, fold it over again. This time I'm going to increase the stitch length again, just by another 0.5 millimeter. This is quite a thin denim, so this is probably replicating kind of 2 layers of, I don't know, a traditional 501, if you like, is the best way I can explain it. And again, it's gone through that no problem at all. The underneath is this line here, and it's still really secure. So this machine comes with a 3-year warranty, and in the box you'll find this card that explains it all to you, including what's covered and what's not covered. And don't forget, we're here at the Sewing Studio for any help that you might need with your new machine. So I hope now we've come to the end of this video, you've learnt about the Brother Inventio NV1350, how easy it is to use and its capabilities, and that you might decide that this one is the right machine for you. If that's the case, head on over to our website and pop one in the basket now. Delivery's fast and free, and you could be using it while all of this is fresh in your mind. Thanks ever so much for watching, and I hope to see you again soon.